Okay, everybody, welcome to chapter 18, Perfection of Renunciation of the Bhagavad Gita. This would be the last one that we have, and there's 72 verses here. So we'll have a little kirtan to start as usual, and then we'll begin the program. So I'll start with pranams. Rangavati, can you hear this? The harmonium? Vishnu Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Guravani Pracharane Nivishesha Sunyamani Paschachade Shetane Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama
Christina has joined us tonight.
Oh, how wonderful. Christina, I've been reading your book. She wrote a beautiful book of poetry, prose, and I've been reading that. She gave me a copy. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Haribol! All right. Well, welcome everybody for the final installment of this series in the Bhagavad Gita, the 18th chapter. We're very excited to be here at this time. And anybody who's missed any of these in the past can go back to the first one and look it up on the YouTube channel. And I believe the YouTube channel is Gayatri Dasa. Is that correct?
No, for these whole classes, I'm using Bhakti Yoga Tennessee.
Very, very good. So go to Bhakti Yoga Tennessee, and you can find us there all day and all night talking about Krishna and the Bhagavad Gita. So we're going to start today, and we're going to read together. There are 72 verses, so not sure how much conversation we'll have, but I'll start out reading, and then if anybody else would like to, please join in, okay? So this chapter is chapter 18, Conclusion, the Perfection of Renunciation. And in text 1, Arjuna says, O mighty armed one, I wish to understand the purpose of renunciation, Tyaga, and the renounced order of life, sannyas. O killer of the Keshi demon, master of the senses, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the giving up of activities that are based on material desire is what great learned men call the renounced order of life, sannyas. And giving up the results of all activities is what the wise call renunciation or tyaga. Text 3, some learned men declare that all kinds of fruit activities should be given up as faulty. Yet other sages maintain that acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance should never be abandoned. O best of the Bharatas, now hear my judgment about renunciation. O tiger among men, renunciation is declared in the scriptures to be of three kinds. Acts of sacrifice, acts of charity, and penance are not to be given up. They must be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity, and penance purify even the great souls. All of these activities should be performed without attachment or any expectation of result. They should be performed as a matter of duty, O son of Pritha. That is my final opinion. Prescribed duties should never be renounced. If one gives up his prescribed duties because of illusion, such renunciation is said to be in the mode of ignorance. Anyone who gives up prescribed duties as troublesome or out of fear of bodily discomfort is said to have renounced in the mode of passion. Such action never leads to the elevation of renunciation. O Arjuna, when one performs his prescribed duty only because it ought to be done and renounces all material association and all attachment to the fruit, his renunciation is said to be in the mode of goodness. Now, we're going to come back and discuss a few of these things and kind of clarify these, but we'll read through all the text first. The intelligent renouncer situated in the mode of goodness, neither hateful or inauspicious work nor attached to auspicious work, has no doubts about work. It is indeed impossible for an embodied being to give up all activities. But he who renounces the fruit of action is called one who has truly renounced. And this is a very important point we'll come back to. For one who has not renounced the threefold action, desirable, undesirable, and mixed, accrue after death. But those who are in the renounced order of life have no such result to suffer or enjoy. O mighty armed Arjuna, according to the Vedanta, there are 5 causes for the accomplishment of all action. Now learn of these from me. The place of action, the body, the performer, the various senses, the many different kinds of endeavor, and ultimately the super soul. These are the 5 factors of action. Whatever right or wrong action a man performs by body, mind, or speech is caused by these 5 factors. Therefore, one who thinks himself the only doer, not considering the 5 factors, is certainly not very intelligent, cannot see things as they are. One who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entangled, though he kills men in this world, does not kill, nor is he bound by his actions. Now, I want to stop there just a second. This conversation is taking place on a battlefield, and all these men are about to die. Okay? I mean, literally millions of men who came together to fight this great war, this contest between good and evil. The war was about to begin. So if you go to, and I've used this example, Prabhupada gives this example all the time. If you go to battle and you're working for your country and you kill thousands of people, they think you're a great hero and they decorate you when you come back. So if you think killing's pretty good and you try it out and think, well, I'll just do it for my own benefit, then you end up in jail or in the electric chair. So when you work for Krishna, there is no karma. When you work for yourself, you are bound up. So Krishna says, all right, he says, knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the knower are the three factors that motivate action. The senses, the work, and the doer are the three constituents of action. And according to the three different modes of material nature, there are three kinds of knowledge, action, and performers of action. Now hear of them from me. So somebody can pick up on text 20 if you'd like.
I can. That knowledge by which one undivided spiritual nature is seen in all living entities, though they are divided into innumerable forms, you should understand to be in the mode of goodness. That knowledge by which one sees that in every different body there is a different type of living entity, you should understand to be in the mode of passion. And that knowledge by which one is attached to one kind of work as the all in all, without knowledge of the truth, and which is very meager, is said to be the mode of darkness. That action which is regulated and which is performed without attachment, without love or hatred, and without desire for fruitive results is said to be in the mode of goodness. But action performed with great effort by one seeking to gratify his desires and enacted from a sense of false ego is called action in the mode of passion. That action performed in illusion, in disregard of spiritual injunctions, and without concern for future bondage or for violence or distress caused to others, is said to be in the mode of ignorance. One who performs his duty without association with the modes of material nature, without false ego, with great determination and enthusiasm, and without wavering in success or failure, is said to be a worker in the mode of goodness. The worker who is attached to work and the fruits of work, desiring to enjoy those fruits, and who is greedy, always envious, impure, and moving by joy and sorrow, is said to be in the mode of passion. The worker who is always engaged in work against the injunctions of the scriptures, who is materialistic, obstinate, cheating, and expert in insulting others, and who is lazy, always morose, and procrastinating, is said to be a worker in the mode of ignorance. Oh, shall I continue?
Yeah, we got 72, so you can read a few more.
O winner of wealth, now listen, please listen as I tell you in detail of the different kinds of understanding and determination according to the three modes of material nature. O son, that understanding by which one knows what ought to be done and what ought not to be done, what is to be feared and what is not to be feared, what is binding and what is liberating, is in the mode of goodness. O son creator, that understanding which cannot distinguish between religion and irreligion, between action that should be done and action that should not be done, is in the mode of passion. That understanding which considers irreligion to be religion and religion to be irreligion under the spell of illusion and darkness, and strives always in the wrong direction, O Peter, is in the mode of ignorance.
Okay, well, that's good. You see, so Krishna is discussing a continuation of this thought process of the three modes of material nature. And then he goes into the divine and demoniac natures very carefully. And now he's continuing that. And he's saying there's three kinds of work. There's three kinds of determination. there's three types of happiness, actually, they're going to be discussed. So I see that Susan is with us. Susan, would you mind reading from 33?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Good to see you.
Thank you. O son of Pritha, that determination which is unbreakable, which is sustained with steadfastness by yoga practice, and thus controls the mind, life, and the acts of the senses, is in the mode of goodness. And that determination by which one holds fast a fruitive result in religion, economic development, and sense gratification is of the nature of passion, O Arjuna. And that determination which cannot go beyond dreaming, fearfulness, lamentation, moroseness, and illusion, such intelligent determination is in the mode of darkness. Excuse me one moment. Okay. O best of the Bharatas, now please hear from me about the three kinds of happiness which the conditioned soul enjoys, and by which he sometimes comes to the end of all distress, that which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. That happiness which is derived from contact of the senses with their objects, and which appears like nectar at first, but poison at the end, is said to be of the nature of passion. And that happiness which is blind to self-realization, which is delusion from beginning to end, and which arises from sleep, laziness, and illusion, is said to be of the nature of ignorance. There is no being existing either here or among the demigods in the higher planetary systems, which is freed from the three modes of material nature. Pass. Thank you.
Very, very good. So we may call on you again as we go along, because we still have about another 30 or so verses. So, Bhavananda, you want to unmute? I see your hand. Unmute and read.
I am unmuted, I believe.
I love that.
Yeah. 41.
Yes, sir.
Brahmanas, Sastriyas, Vaishnavas, and Sudras are distinguished by the qualities born of their own natures in accordance with material modes, O chastiser of the enemy. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work. Heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership are the natural qualities of work for the Kshatriyas. Farming, cow protection, and business are the natural work for the Vaishnavas, and for the Sudras there are labor and service to others. By following his qualities of work, every man can become perfect. Now please hear from me how this can be done. By worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all-pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. It is better to engage in one's own occupations, even though one may perform it imperfectly, than to accept another's occupation and perform it perfectly. Duties prescribed according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reactions. Every endeavor is covered by some fault, just as fire is covered by smoke. Therefore, one should not give up the work born of his nature, O son of Kunti, even if such work is full of fault. One who is self-controlled, unattached, and who disregards all material enjoyment can obtain, by practice of renunciation, the highest perfect stage of freedom from reaction. O son of Kunti, learn from me how one has achieved this perfection. Excuse me. O son of Kunti, learn from me now. One who has achieved this perfection can attain the supreme. I'm messing up here. Sorry.
You just learn from me how. one who...
Yeah, how? Yeah, I couldn't get the word right.
It's okay.
Old age. I couldn't get the word right.
It's okay.
Old age. How one can achieve this perfection, can attain to the supreme perfectional stage, Brahman, the stage of highest knowledge, by acting in a way I shall now summarize. Can we keep going or stop?
Let's see. Does anybody else want to read another little bit? Maybe Susan, you can come back and read a bit more. We still got about 30 more verses, 25 more verses. Maybe you can read 10 more.
Okay, sure. Let's see. So we are at 51:53. Being purified by his intelligence and controlling the mind with determination, giving up the objects of sense gratification, being freed from attachment and hatred, one who lives in a secluded place, who eats little and controls the body and the tongue, and is always in trance and is detached, who is without false ego, false strength, false pride, lust, anger, and who does not accept material things. Such a person is certainly elevated to the position of self-realization. One who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman. He never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. One can understand the Supreme Personality as he is only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of the Supreme Lord by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Though engaged in all kinds of activities, my devotee, under my protection, reaches the eternal and imperishable abode by my grace. In all activities, just depend upon me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. If you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditional life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. If you do not act according to my direction and do not fight, then you will be falsely directed. By your nature, you will have to be engaged in warfare. Under illusion, you are now declining to act according to my direction, but compelled by your own nature, you will act all the same, O son of Kunti. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of material energy. Pass.
Beautiful. Thank you. So there's a few left. I'll read them unless somebody's chomping at the bit. So 62, O Sayana Bharta, surrender unto him utterly. By his grace you will attain transcendental peace and the supreme and eternal abode. Thus I have explained to you knowledge still more confidential. Deliberate on this fully and then do what you wish to do. Because you are my very dear friend, I am speaking to you my supreme instruction, the most confidential knowledge of all. Hear this from me, for it is for your benefit. Always think of me. Become my devotee. Worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this, because you are my very dear friend. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. This confidential knowledge may never be explained to those who are not austere or devoted or engaged in devotional service, nor to one who is envious of me. For one who explains this supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed. And at the end, he will come back to me. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. And I declare that he who studies this sacred conversation of ours worships me by his intelligence. And one who listens with faith and without envy becomes free from all sinful reactions and attains to the auspicious planets where the pious dwell. O son of Prita, O conqueror of wealth, have you heard this with an attentive mind? Are your ignorance and illusions now dispelled? Arjuna said, "My dear Krishna, O infallible one, my illusion is now gone. I have regained my memory by your mercy. I am now firm and free from doubt and am prepared to act according to your instructions." Sanjaya said, "Thus have I heard the conversation of two great souls, Krishna and Arjuna, and so wonderful is that message that my hair is standing on end. By the mercy of Vyas, I have heard these most confidential talks directly from the master of all mysticism, Krishna, who is speaking personally to Arjuna. O king, as I repeatedly recall this wondrous and holy dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, I take pleasure, being thrilled at every moment. O king, as I remember the wonderful form of Lord Krishna, I am struck with wonder more and more, and I rejoice again and again. Wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, and wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. That is my opinion." So that's it, guys. We made it to the last verse of the last chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. It's been a long time coming, but we've got it chronicled, and anybody who wants to hear this for posterity's sake is welcome to join us, And everybody who's participated in this class, I want to offer my special respects to, and their enthusiasm to be here and read along with us is inspiring to me to continue in my work in devotional service. So, speaking of devotional service, Krishna kind of got right with us, didn't he? He got right with us at the end. Now, the one thing that stands out in my mind is from the very beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has been encouraging us in the way of devotion. He even said, don't disturb the mind of the ignorant, but encourage them in the way of devotion. But way back in the 3rd chapter, Krishna said, "Yagyartat karmanon yatra lokoyam karma bandhana tadartam karma konteya mukta sangha samachara." And that means that work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu or God has to be done. Otherwise, work binds one to the material world. So he says, "O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for God's satisfaction, and in that way you will always remain unattached and free from bondage." So later in this 18th chapter, way down, another 15 chapters down, Krishna is talking about don't give up prescribed duties. Don't give them up. We all have a proclivity. We're born. We take up a kind of a Varna ashram arrangement. He talks about Varna ashram a little bit in this chapter. And anybody who wants to know a whole story of Varna ashram, please let us know, because that's the divisions of religion and spiritual life and the divisions of material life, such as we see Sudras, people that work, just for the good of all society. The Vaishyas, who are the belly of society. By the way, the Sudras are like the legs of society. The Vaishyas are the belly of society. They're the businessmen, the merchants, the farmers, like that. And then we see the Kshatriyas. The Kshatriyas are the arms of the body of God, this big Virata Rupa. And the arms are the warrior class, the military class, the administrative class, the political class, like that. And they're the ones that are supposed to offer protection in the monarchy and so forth and so on. So, and then above that, the head of society is the Brahmins. The Brahmins are the priestly class. They're the ones who are the monastic class. They're attracted to philosophical discourse. They're enlivened by hearing these great stories from Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. As a matter of fact, they thrill at every moment to speak of these. And so a person who has felt devotion in their heart then always wants to feel in association with the Vaishnavas or with the instructions of the Lord. And that we can find in these great Shastric literatures like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, which we are going to start a course on in the near future. We're going to wait a couple of weeks because we got Janmashtami coming up, and we may have a nice class for Janmashtami, okay? So we might invite everybody to come for a nice class on Janmashtami. Janmashtami is the 6th of this month. Baladev's appearance is on the 30th. I mean, there's just one party after the next. Radharani's coming. So there's definitely going to be some fun coming up. And if you're with us, there'll probably be some feasting, if I know Bhavananda correctly, because he is a cook for Krishna. So when we look back throughout these chapters to bring us to this final conclusion of renunciation, what do we find? We find verses like this: Yoginam api sarvesham madgate nantaratmana Shradavan bhajate yomam same yuktat mano mukta. And of all the yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshiping me in transcendental loving service, is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. This is way back in chapter 6. So Krishna is giving detailed information about all of these, features of the material world and how the soul interacts through the 3 modes of material nature, through our own karma, the field of activities, time, kala, karma, like that. All of these things have been described to us, but Krishna always nudges us towards a devotional service throughout the entire Bhagavad Gita, no matter if he's talking about Ashtanga Yoga or Sankhya Yoga, which is the analytical study, or Jnana Yoga, to find God in all things like that, or in personalism, we find that is also mentioned here. God's impersonal feature is Brahman realization, the light of God's body, all that's mentioned. Super soul realization is mentioned here, okay? So, and then ultimately Bhagavan realization has been mentioned throughout this. And Krishna continually directs us towards devotional service. Why? Because that's what he likes. He likes love just like you do. Everybody wants to be loved. Everybody wants to give love. Happiness comes from the exchange of loving interactions with one another. Our lives are meant for that. Marriage, for an example, is meant for a constant practice of interaction, of loving exchanges, right? So our children, we have those, we want our interactions of our children in that particular mood, parental, and so forth and so on. All these things are there for us. And Krishna says in the 7th chapter that only after many, many births and deaths, one who has actually come to some knowledge surrenders unto me fully, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. And such a great soul is extremely rare. So Krishna is explaining that this surrendering process that he talks about at the very end, utterly surrender to him, he talks about. Ultimately, that's going to be required. And that is the ultimate challenge of all yogic practice, is that we bring ourselves to that knowledge that we love God so much, we trust God so much, we developed our relationship with God in one of the 5 various rasas. And we're working in that direction to do that. And we're trying to become self-realized. We're engaging our activities. We're engaging our proclivities. All of that in the service of the Lord. And we dedicate our houses. We dedicate our families. We dedicate our business. We dedicate everything to God. And we offer it to God on the altar. You know, it used to be when I first started working, I came out of the Brahmachari ashram. Okay, so I was a celibate monk for several years, probably 7 or 8 years, that I lived in that ashram in the temple while Prabhupada was still on the planet. And that was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful life, because everything we did was structured around sadhana bhakti. We didn't have to try to be Krishna conscious. We were Krishna conscious all the time. We couldn't help it. We're in the temple. We're doing service. We're associated with the Vaishnavas. We're distributing Prabhupada's books. We're studying it together. We're taking prasad. All of that we do, no matter what it is we do, was connected to Krishna in bhakti yoga. So we felt fearless. We felt completely free from anxiety. We felt completely detached from this world, knowing that we're a spirit soul and have nothing to do with this dream world. Our lives are permanent. Our lives are meant for loving interchange with the Supreme Lord and one another in an eternal environment of Satchidananda Vigraha. It's not meant for flipping around like fish out of water in a foreign world, an alien place to us. a place of death, a place of darkness, a place of illusion. Do we like that? You know, everybody's been to the fair. You go to the fair, they have this world of illusion. You go in there and the mirrors are going crazy, the lights are going off, so you can't really know what's really happening because everything is a big illusion in that world of illusion ride or whatever that may be. That's our condition here. The only way we're going to be free from illusion is when the spiritual master comes and delivers that information, unadulterated information, unchanged, okay, not polluted by the lips of the serpent. They say in India, when they're milking the cow, the cobra comes up and drinks the milk and is so kind to leave the poison behind that when the baby drinks the milk, it dies. So anyone who touches this information, who is not pure at heart, who is not giving it correctly as it's been given to them, without changing one dot, one tittle, one iota, right? Keep the truth. Don't change it. Krishna has a message for us. We need to know what that is. So anyone who changes it is condemned, literally. And anyone who gives it freely is guaranteed to come home to Krishna. We just heard that by God's own voice in this beautiful 18th chapter. So let's go back a little ways, okay? Because we've studied the whole Bhagavad Gita. And we know how Krishna finishes this. Surrender utterly to that Supreme Personality, right? So Krishna says in 934, Manmana bhavamadbhakto majjaji nam namaskaru mami vaishasi yuktvavam atmanam matparayana. Engage your mind always in thinking of me, offer your obeisances, worship me, being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. So Krishna encourages us 9 chapters ago in the same way he's encouraging us at the end of the 18th chapter. Right? So if you go back in the Bhagavad Gita, you look, what is Krishna trying to drive home? And when he talks about impersonalism, the first thing he says is advancement in this is very difficult. Well, we're not used to the unmanifest, right? We don't know all about that. We don't understand that, right? We're sentient beings. We're here. We need to use our senses, our mind, our energies, our legs, our arms, our bodies, our mouth, our tongue, our eyes, all in worshiping Krishna. All of it. Utterly surrender. All of those senses to the Lord. And let the Lord have his way with you. I promise it'll be better than your karma. I promise you. You may still get some token karma. That's not to say you won't, but it won't be as bad as it could be. Krishna says in the 10th canto, 10th chapter, and here we're reading through this, and I pulled some of this together for you just because I want you to see how Krishna has directed us throughout the entire Bhagavatam. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogantam yenamam upayantite. To them who are constantly devoted and who worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So why wouldn't we just take that as the absolute truth and do that? But instead we go off, we try to figure out things by ourselves, we listen to speculators, people who are not in the Sampradaya, people who are making it up as they go along, creating their own religions. And you remember what Krishna said in the last chapter. Arjuna asked him, he said, what is it like? What happens to a person who doesn't follow any scriptural injunctions, but instead concocts their own religious behaviors and activities? These people are in the mode of ignorance. The mode of ignorance leads to darkness. The mode of ignorance is like a whirlpool. When you get in it, you're going down, spiraling. That's what the lower animal species are made of. That's what the demoniac species are made of that we see. That's what the insect, plant life, all of that stuff. We don't want to fall into that. We're human beings. We've been given this opportunity. Prabhupada, I read today in a purport, the only purpose for human life is self-realization. There is no other purpose. It's not to become wealthy. Not to say you wouldn't be wealthy. If you are, great, we'll use it for Krishna. It's just another great opportunity to do devotional service, right? right? So let's say, you know, your goal in life is to become famous. If you can't become famous, you're going to be miserable, right? And people are. We see it in our city, Nashville, Tennessee. They'll camp out. You want to talk about austerity? These are great devotees of their own false ego. Because they're looking to become famous in Nashville, Tennessee. But good luck. It's like winning the lottery or being struck by electricity, by lightning. Right? We're hoping against hope for some permanent benefit in the material world based on our current, present mental concoction that is designed. The mind and the senses then go after that in the material world at great cost and great effort, only to lose it all in the end. It's a life in vain, Krishna says. So, if you want the understanding by which to come to Krishna, all you have to do is serve God with love. It's the easiest process. If you want to do Ashtanga Yoga today, you need to look at how that's even possible. How is that even possible? And what a great difficult practice. So Bhakti Yoga, Krishna says in the 11th chapter, now we're moving on up towards the 18th chapter, Krishna says, Bhaktya Chwananya Yasakya Aham Evam Vidorjina Gyantum Drastum Chitadvene Pravestum Cha Parantapa. My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you, and I can thus be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. So we may want to go off and do other things or practice other programs, but Krishna said here, give up all varieties of religion and simply surrender to me. I will protect you. Do not fear. That's the promise of God. Okay? That's the promise of God. And when we look into all these other sects and religions and ideas about how to come to God, some of it leads us to the great void, if there is such a thing. Or it leads us to a sense of impersonalism, which is cold, not something that we want. It doesn't contain that love that we're after, right? So ultimately, for the soul to be completely satisfied, and we know what the Bhagavatam says about that. And I'll read that to you because what a great, great verse this is, if I can find it for you. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. Well, I'll read that in a moment. Maybe here it is. Oh, well, Krishna, I will come back to that in a second. Let's just come back to that. So, Krishna says if you want to understand him how he is standing before you, you got to give him some undivided devotional service. That's how it works. And when you're in such consciousness of Krishna by that devotional service, you can enter into the kingdom of God. Krishna just said that in the last few verses that we read together, that at that time when you are fully conscious of God, you can enter into the kingdom of God. If you want something in the material world, Krishna loves you enough, you can have it. You can have it. The only problem is death seems to come with it. Old age comes with it. Because it's not in its true place. We're out of place. We're fish out of water. This is not our permanent home. We're passing through. We're here to learn what is to be done and what is not to be done, just like Krishna described in these verses. We need to know what is proper behavior, what is improper behavior. We need to know these things. It's not that everything's just okay, all things are one. Each path leads to a different destination. Each path we take in life leads us to a different destination. You have to ask yourself, where does this path take me? And do I want to go there? What's the results of that? This is real. This is not a test. This is real. Everything we do has an opposite and equal reaction. So we have to think about that. So the one who becomes transcendently situated Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Nasochiti Nakanchati. What we're talking about here is one who enters that realization of Brahman, that I am not the material body, that I am spirit, soul, connected to God and loving service. He never laments nor desires to have anything. That person doesn't want anything here. If Krishna gives it, very nice. If he doesn't, very nice. Just like they used to say when we lived in the monastery, if the spiritual master calls you to eat, then you eat. If he doesn't call, you don't eat. Okay? That's how it works. Krishna knows what you need before you even know it yourself. And Krishna will be sure that you have it because you are his very dear friend. Right? And he will reveal himself to you over a period of time. So, to become equally disposed to every living entity means really to become free from false ego, doesn't it? Because if you've got a false ego, you're not going to be equally disposed to every living entity. Right? Your false ego will want to lord it over that living entity, control that living entity, exploit that living entity, enjoy that living entity, use that living entity in your service for your benefit. Right? That's demoniac. We read that in the previous chapter, Divine and Demoniac. So, Krishna says something in the 18th chapter that's almost exactly like the verse I just read to you a moment ago. And it's Bhaktya mam abhijananti yavanyas chasmi tatvadaha tato mang tatvato yatva visite tad anantara. One can understand the Supreme Personality only as he is, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of the Supreme Lord by such devotion, then he can enter into the kingdom of God. If you don't want God, you won't get God. You'll get something else. So desire carefully, because that is the one function that we have, is to desire. And God is providing the body we live in, the senses we live in, the intelligence that we have, the field of activities, the material world, time, the place, all of these actors, the five actors we just described in this chapter. We're not the only doer. All these things are taking place. We actually do nothing at all. We desire in Krishna. God disposes, man proposes. So, if we understand Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam, okay, the Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart. And the Lord is directing the wanderings of all the living entities who are seated as if on a machine made of material energy. This is a machine. You're seated on a machine. The machine consumes some fuel, evacuates the waste. The machine needs to sleep. The machine has to get up. So the machine's just like a car. It's got to be refueled. It's got to be cleaned. It's got to be cared for, right? Sometimes it has to go into the shop for repair, right? We see that. So this is a machine, and you're riding in the heart, and you're the mind, right? You're the intelligence. Well, actually, if you look at the picture in the Bhagavad Gita, the soul is the one who is afraid. You see that look on the soul's face, right? Because the senses are carrying the mind off and the intelligent off the great abyss, right? Because we're not controlling our senses. If we don't control our senses, there's no hope of advancement in yoga. If you look at the yogic principles, yama niyama, it means don't do anything that's detrimental to your spiritual advancement and your self-realization, and conversely, accept everything that's good for your spiritual advancement, right? So, but Krishna finishes this chapter by saying, Sarvadharma parityaja mamekam saranambraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishami ma sucha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender to me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. There is no need for you to fear. So, guys, that is the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita. There's a long way to get to this point, but Krishna has been nudging us and throughout all these chapters, and we've given evidences of that for you this evening, that even way back, even in the 3rd chapter, Krishna is talking about this devotional service. That's what attracts Krishna. Krishna is a person like you are. Your favorite color may be red. Somebody else's may be blue. Somebody else's may be orange. Krishna has a favorite color. He has a favorite pastimes. He enjoys pastimes. He comes here over and over again. Yada yada hidharmasha, right? Prachanaya sadhanam, vinashaya chadushkratam. Got to get rid of the demons. Got to reestablish the saints on the planet. Got to reestablish the principles of Dharma. So this is what this is all about. But what is Dharma? Savai pumso paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhoksaje. Bhaktir means the supreme occupation or dharma for all humanity is bhaktir, bhakti, or that which men can attain to the loving devotional service of the transcendent Lord. Now, there's a caveat. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted in order to completely satisfy the self. So that is what the Srimad Bhagavatam has to say literally in the second chapter. That you should know that it's corroborated throughout all the Shastras that we are to serve the Lord and we are to understand the Lord. And there's one other beautiful verse that I would like to share with you that always stands out in my mind in the Bhagavatam as well. Now, this is in the second canto, third chapter, 10th verse. Akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradi. Divrena bhakti jogena yajita purusampadam. Okay? Bhakti jogena. So Krishna says, whether you're full of all material desires or you're free from all material desires, or if you're desiring liberation, freedom from this material birth and death situation, whatever it is you want, a person who has broader intelligence must by all means. Now, okay, hold up. It says in the Shastra, by all means, one must worship the supreme whole, the supreme absolute truth, the supreme personality of Godhead. So this is the conclusion of the Vedic literatures. This is the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita. This is the conclusion of the will of Sri Krishna and his direction to Arjuna. And then it's further proclamated by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda, and Panchatattva, who came to start this Yuga Dharma, which is Sankirtan, which is the chanting of the holy names of God. Okay, so the chanting of the holy name of God will free us from all types of sinful reaction. And by the way, if you're breathing air and you're drinking water and you're walking about, you are full of sinful reactions if you're doing it for your own benefit. If you're doing it for Krishna, there is no reaction at all. So in this age of Kali, right, people who are endowed with sufficient intelligence will worship the Lord, who is accompanied by his associates by performance of the Sankirtana Jagya. That's our Yuga Dharma. That is the conclusion of Lord Chaitanya's purpose here as well, is to fall back in love with that Supreme Personality, the most beautiful, wealthy, wise, famous, powerful, yet renounced individual, of whom you are part and parcel, inseparable. Reconnect in yoga. Bhakti Yogena is the way it's put in the Bhagavatam. So that's our mission, that's our goal, that was our purpose in stating these wonderful truths found in the Bhagavad Gita. And there must be some comment or some elucidation or illumination that you could share with us. Anybody, please step up. there's no question.
I'll share.
Oh, go ahead, Susan. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, well, I would just say that there's so many wonderful teachings and lessons in the Gita that I don't know that I have just one that would be a favorite or that stands out maybe. But I think what helps me most is just each day to devote everything that I do to Krishna in service and worship and love, and letting go of the results, letting go of attachment of the results, and only doing it for the action and the service itself is one of the powerful lessons that helps me in my daily life.
Ah, I love that.
And chanting the holy name.
Woo! Haribol! And you do it so well, too. We really appreciate your chanting in Nashville. You've really helped Kentucky and Tennessee quite a bit. And who knows where else you've been chanting the holy names. But I'm sure that you're carrying that like a torch of knowledge with you. Please continue. So what you're saying, though, brings back the first lesson there that we heard in this chapter. And it's called Tyaga. Tyaga means renunciation, right? So Tyaga, there's two things, Bhoga and Tyaga. So Bhoga means artificial sense enjoyment, right? That which is bogus. The word bogus comes from Bhoga. And at the temple, when they go buy food that hasn't been offered, it's boga, it's untouchable. We don't touch it. It's against our idea to take any food that's not been offered to the Lord because it's karmic ridden. It's full of sin. It's full of karma. Krishna says that. Patram pushvam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati. Offer it to me with love and devotion. It becomes prasad. Right? So what's the problem? We can do that. But Bhoga is your life without Krishna. Your life without Krishna is bogus. It has no real purpose except for sense gratification. And even the hogs in stool have sense gratification. So there must be a higher purpose, right? That higher purpose is called Tyaga. So Tyaga is that giving back of everything to Krishna, that total surrender, that giving everything back in your consciousness. Krishna doesn't take it. You still have a house to live in. You're just giving it to Krishna. You still have money in your bank, but it belongs to Krishna. You still have talent, but it belongs to Krishna. It's given by Krishna. So Tyaga means not to give up these things that can be used in Krishna's service. The only things we give up are things that we can't use in Krishna's service. Everything else we can use in Krishna's service. Prabhupada showed that. He was the best example of that. He was the jet age sannyasi. He was the jet age guru. Everybody always questioned him about that. Prabhupada said if it can be used for Krishna, then it's very, very nice. So Susan, that you have imbibed the actual meaning of the Bhagavad Gita. And that is the purpose of your life. And you have done that. And you have stated that clearly. And Krishna corroborates your conclusion. Now, Krishna says in this chapter, one thing that always blew me away is that at the end of educating Arjuna, Krishna says, have you understood everything? Is your doubt dispelled? Is your illusion now gone? Yes. Now do as you will. He tells Arjuna to go do whatever he wants to do. Because Arjuna has to surrender. He has to give it up. So you have the same free will. Go do whatever you want to do. If you want to do all nonsense, that's fine. Krishna will still give you the results of your karma. He'll give you a nice new body, right? Where you can try to enjoy again and again and again and again in the material world. But if you just simply use everything in consciousness of God, realize it all comes, develop your yogic relationship, you'll be in a state of samadhi. And I remember way back, samadhi, it was like, oh my God, when I first got into yoga in the late 60s, early 70s, we're going to get in samadhi. We were trying to get in samadhi with some kind of drugs or mushroom or God knows what, But it didn't last. We wanted a permanent high. Now we have a permanent high. We have a permanent high because every moment is called the present. Because it's a gift to you. You take that gift from God like a little child, like you got your allowance, and give it back. And the Lord will be very pleased. So thank you, Susan, for stating that, because that is actually the purpose of this whole study, is to come to a realization that everything belongs to Krishna, including me, and I'm going to give it all back, right? And then whatever comes, you accept it as Krishna's mercy. And if it's difficult, that's okay. That's okay. The devotees will be there to help you get through it, and you can find the meaning of that. You can find the meaning of that also if you're very quiet and you chant Hare Krishna. And by the way, chanting is silence, because there's no mundane vibration going on. It's not of this world, right? Don't forget that. Okay, anybody else? Oh, we're 6 minutes after. We're doing pretty good, though. You got to admit, guys, we're doing better, right? Thank you, Susan, for hanging in there with us. Appreciate you very, very much, and everybody else too. These are being reposted, and people are posting them, and there's a lot of views on a lot of these, but we need you to post them as well, guys, if you don't mind, and just ask everybody to repost this information, because this is liberating information. This is information that we are giving to you unadulterated, unchanged, directly out of the mouth of Lord Sri Krishna. And there's no reason why any sane person wouldn't want to avail themselves of this this liberating knowledge that will bring us to a state of love and devotion and happiness, true happiness. Okay, so any other questions or comments? Okay. You know what they say? If you don't have a question, that means you agree. So hang in there, everybody, and we'll start the Srimad Bhagavatam classes coming up shortly, and we'll let you know what we're doing for Janmashtami and so forth and so on, and we'll post it or give you an invitation to come and join us, okay? So I'm very, very grateful to each and every one of you. Thanks for coming. And Christina was here with us tonight. That's just fantastic that she's here with us. We love her dearly. And we're very, very grateful for everybody's participation. And we'll have a lot of announcements for you as we come up to the future. A lot of good things are getting ready to happen in the great state of Tennessee. So we'll keep you posted. All right? Namaste. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribol. See you soon. I'll see you soon.